All right, so now that we've prepared our volume, let's get ready to analyze the initial airway. So we're going to go up to the workflow bar at the top, and we're going to click Analyze, and on the first arrow, which says Segment the Airway. So our multi-window view opens up and gives us our axial, 3D, coronal, and sagittal views. So let's go down to our sagittal view and make this full screen. This is going to be the best area for us to segment the airway. We're going to find our first anatomical landmark, which is going to be the posterior portion of the hard palate right here. And we're going to double click with our mouse. And now you'll see as I move my mouse, it has this red rectangle that expands. And we're going to want to take our mouse down to the second anatomical landmark, which is the elevation of the C2 vertebrae. We'll do that, double click, and now you'll see the software will auto segment the airway. So now we see that in yellow, and if I click and minimize this window, we'll see in our axial, coronal, and sagittal views, as well as our 3D volume, we now have segmented that airway. So if I click and hold in here, you'll see I can navigate through the slices just like you can in Sidexis. And if you ever get lost, there's a tutorial video from SICAT up here in the right-hand corner. So just remember that if you ever need a little assistance, you can find it right here in the software. I want to show you a little bit of the manual correction tools. So right now I have navigation highlighted, which gives me my standard mouse pointer. But in the sagittal, if I want to make any adjustments, let's blow this back up. I have the one tool that will allow me to remove something from the airway. So if I click on this, you'll notice as I move into the volume, nothing's really happening. I just get this do not disturb type of button that pops up. But as I go into the red area, notice there comes my paint roller. So if I want to remove a little piece, say like right here, if I click on that, notice that it removed a portion of that segmented airway. On the flip side, if I want to add it back, I'll click on the Add to Airway, and I can go right back to the area I was, click, and then it gets added back to my segmented airway. Now there's also a freehand tool if you want to remove an entire region, and that's where I click this Remove Dispensable Oral Region button. And if I want to remove down here, I would click and hold, and you sort of have to move it to draw a circle. I can do that, and it will remove that entire portion of the airway. So if I'm good to go, I will minimize this once again, and then press OK. So now as you can see, we have our airway that's been segmented and colorized, and we can click and hold and move our way around this particular airway. So this is really neat when you're showing your patients. If I want to add structure back into the airway, I can go up here to our tool, click on the airway, and I can add back in soft tissue if I'd like. I can click it once again, and I can add back in our bones. Or for instance, I can put back in bones and soft tissue. So a lot of different ways in which we can illustrate what the airway is looking like to your patients. Now, if you want, which is also pretty neat, is I can go to our clipping tool, and let's say I wanted to do a sagittal slice. That's where we can take away half of the image so the patient can also get another visual of what their airway looks like, split right down the middle. Let's go back to our original airway view. And what I want to focus on now is on the right-hand side. First of all, it shows the total volume of the actual airway. But the minimal cross section is this white line you see splitting the airway. And it won't always split right in the middle. It finds the smallest point of constriction. And so for this particular patient, you'll notice that we have a depth of 6 millimeters and a width of 13 millimeters at this white line. Now, if we want to see the measurements at a different point in the airway, what we can do is go to this airway profile, click and hold, or just click where we want the slice to move. And now we can see the measurements of where we have this orange line. And for instance, on this particular measurement, it's 21 millimeters wide and a depth of 15 millimeters. So you can add a freehand measurement if you'd like by going up to our workflow bar. You can add a distance measurement, which is best done here in the sagittal portion, but there's really no need for freehand measurements because nothing will be more accurate than what the software can actually calculate itself. Now, if we want to add this as a screenshot, what we can do is go here, once again, up to copy screenshot to clipboard. So I'll click that, and you'll see over here on the right-hand side, it's added another screenshot to our handout, which is a great patient reference tool, which we'll show you here in a little bit.